Welcome to the Day with Friday. My name is Michael Schimke. I'm the CEO of Scalefree. We run a session here every Friday, 11 o'clock Central European Standard Time, to allow you, the audience, to ask questions about Data Vault, data mining, MPP clusters, cloud computing, anything data-driven, let's say. Any data-driven application or use case is good. Yeah, let me just jump into today's question here. So this question here is essentially from a let's say pitch call, where we pitch Data Vault, the idea of Data Vault to a client. Are these specific, and this question popped up essentially, are there specific business case scenarios that can better portray the power of Data Vault? So when do you use Data Vault? Where has its leap essentially, its edge over other aspects or other approaches essentially? Now here's the thing. First of all, you always want to check out what the pain point is. What's the pain point? Why do you even suggest using something like Data Vault or something different than you already have? That's number one. Because if there's no pain point, you don't need to use anything else. You don't need that, essentially, right? That's number one. So that answers the question where not to use Data Vault, in all honesty, when there's no pain. So what's a typical pain point? I would say the advantage of Data Vault is really in cases where it's all about integration. That's number one. So if you want to integrate multiple data sources, which is today's common case, if you want to integrate multiple data sources, the integration, that's really the strength of Data Vault in one aspect. And then it's really about, if you compare Data Vault to other aspects, it's really about the requirements. I truly believe there are many scenarios where you don't need Data Vault. We're just dumping the data on a data lake, for example, and then just query the results from it would be sufficient. However, the problem is, does this solution meet your current or upcoming requirements? And that's a big challenge. What about, for example, integration, right? How do you integrate these data sets on your data lake? How do you do that, right? That's number one. If you just dump the data, you still have to integrate the data sets, these independent data sets, to have a common enterprise model for your reports. I mean, just think about this. Your end users, if they want to produce a report, they want to know how many clients do we have across all the data sources. What's the revenue across all these data sources and so on, right? Of our customers in all our data sources. They want an integrated report or an integrated result set. That's a challenge. So you have to integrate these data sets. That's number one. And then topics like GDPR, for example, when you have to delete personal data from your data set, from your solution. Also, I mean, there are options how you solve this with other aspects in Data Vault. Yes, but how do you do it? So you need these patterns essentially. In Data Vault, we have all these patterns for GDPR, securing data, but also deleting or removing personal attributes from your data sets, really managing data. So, and then also like adding real-time feeds, enriching real-time messages, what else? Extending it over time, applying business logic to it. Yeah, sounds easy, but what if I have different business perspectives that I want to apply, or changing business perspectives where my business rules change over time, or even worse, where I want to do, let's say, a certain version of a business rule for a while, and then after a cutover date, I switch over to the next version of the business rule, but I'm applying both versions of the business rule at different sets of data, right? The first version on the historical data, the second version on the new data. How do we solve that? So it sounds always easy if you conform your data on the way into the system, but it's only easy for the first iteration. It sounds good. I mean, you've conformed data now on the data lake, on your data platform, and now you can reuse those cleansing operations all the way downstream for your reports. Fine. Everything is consistent, right? That's the idea. But what if the way how we cleanse the data, how we conform the data, if that changes over time, then you struggle. And that's what we solve with a schema on read approach, when we move the data cleansing operations, all the business transformations, everything, all the conditional logic, all downstream into the business vault. That's again a pattern, right? You could do this without Data Vault. I mean, people use the same pattern or the same concept with something else, would work as well. But again, then how do you manage the data regarding privacy and so on? You have to have a solution for all these different requirements. It's all about requirements. And when we look at today's enterprise environment, we have many of these requirements. So either have a solution for all these requirements, and these solutions must fit together, fine, or use Data Vault, because that's where you have all these solutions and they all fit together already. It's by design, right? That's the idea. So, and that's really the power of Data Vault. Look at the pain points, look at the requirements they have, and how they want to solve this. that's what I would say is really addressing this question here. Well, I have to do this in a specific talk, right, with the client, but that's how we do it essentially. That's how we discuss this. And it's in all honesty, it's where the value is of Data Vault. That's where it comes from essentially. And one more thing, what I personally like about Data Vault is I always say we creatively destruct the incoming data sets. We break apart these source models into the fundamental components, business keys, relationships, and descriptive data. And then once we have those, we can then recombine them into any target structure we want. Star schemas, or the customer user wants, star schemas, dimensions, facts, flat and white tables, and so on, documents, messages, and so on. So we can turn this into any target structure we want. That's what I also like about it. If you have to produce different targets, different products from a data platform, yeah, if you have to produce different targets, essentially, you don't have to build multiple target platform or multiple data platforms for different use cases. You use one data platform for all your use cases. That's a cool thing. So you can essentially reduce the effort. And then other aspects, but then they're also related to requirements. What about auditability? Then you have to have a full data lineage across the whole board, right? Across from the data source all the way downstream to the information marts. That's what you can provide. Very many security features and so on. So that's the value, I would say. And now for your specific use case, it really depends on your requirements. If you have no requirements at all, if you have clean data, no need to cleanse it, no regulatory requirements, no nothing, no GDPR, I haven't heard that for a while, but if that's the case, you might get away with other solutions. I'm not even saying they're simple, I'm just saying they're other. They're not necessarily simple, because if you have no requirements, the data vault is also relatively simple. The problem is the data vault grows in complexity the more requirements and the more challenges you have. If you have GDPR, let's say privacy requirements, well, then you have to split the satellites. If you have, let's say, dirty data, yeah, we add a computed satellite to cleanse it. If you have, let's say, no clear business key or two different source systems with different business keys or overlapping business keys, yeah, we have a hub for the business key, but then add a SMS link in a more simple case, or maybe have two hubs because it could be a different structure, and then have a link in between. So we're adding more and more because you have challenges in your data sets or requirements that we have to solve. And that adds the complexity to the data model. But that can't be Data Vault's fault to have a solution for all your challenges, right? At least the data-driven challenges. Can't be a fault for the Data Vault to solve your problems. It's just that every problem, because Data Vault really reflects your usage of data in your enterprise, and it's complex because you don't have clear business key definitions. You have dirty data. You should not have that, right? It should have only clear data, clearly defined business keys across all the source systems, and so on. That should be the world, but it's not. And this complexity in your enterprise data is reflected in the raw Data Vault. That's what it is. So it grows, it becomes more complicated as you have complicated access patterns in your data sets. That's what it is. But that's not a fault of Data Vault, by all honesty. I'm not saying it's a fault of you or of your enterprise data. It's just what it is, right? So we have to solve this. And you still have the same challenges when you use something else in Data Vault. How do you solve this? That's a big question, right? And nobody can tell me that a simple model solves all the problems, all the requirements. That's not going to work. So yeah, that's I would say the value of Data Vault here. So a good question came up in essentially a discussion with higher management essentially. Oh wow, wait, I clicked something. If you have a question like this, and as you can imagine, I'm running short on questions, so it's a good time now to shoot your questions now. Use this form here, sfr.ee/dbfriday. That's where you can submit your questions, where you can also add some descriptions, maybe add some team pictures or whiteboard pictures, diagrams. Keep it short, should fit on an HD screen, right? And yeah. Sorry. And there's 2 more webinars. We have additional webinars on tools, essentially, on DBT and RESTscape at the moment. That's what you can find at scalefree.to/webinars. And if you can't wait until next Friday, join the Data Innovators Exchange. That's a forum-style community where you can ask questions, and our people and people in Australia and Ignition Data. So it's 2 different time zones, actually. When the Scalefree guys can't answer a question, the Ignition Data guys will jump in and answer them overnight, or the other way around. So we can't argue, we can't agree at the moment who's right with having night or day. So, but we will answer your questions essentially, and it's like a 24 hours answering engine. And that's essentially a community where you can get your questions answered quickly, and or wait until next Friday and submit your question on the form that I just showed you. Cool. Thanks for joining. Enjoy your weekend and see you next Friday, guys.